let's go ahead and apply what we've learned from the last video. You may recall we started with an n-gon and a circle, and the rule being we need to see 3 or 4 sided regions with our splines. So I'll turn on vertex tick so we can see what's going on. I have the 4-sided circle here, but you may recall we took a look at the n-gon. If you didn't watch the first video, you might want to see that. We're actually going to use the n-gon to model a cowboy hat using the techniques that we explored in the first video, the fundamental ideas. So I'm just going to create an n-gon with 8 sides. And notice the white vertex there is the first vertex. That's important because that's where all the cross sections will emanate from. They emanate in order from the first vertex. So let's go ahead and convert this to an editable spline, and this gives us access to the subobject mode where we can go ahead and grab the spline at the subobject level. And using scale and holding down my shift key, I can create a copy of that spline directly within itself. Has the same number of vertices as the other one. So you can see that'll be, we're starting with the brim of the hat actually. And I can then select the subobject of that spline and copy it up again holding the shift key. And remember, these spline objects are all one object. You'll notice the bounding box there has just one object selected with a number of subsplines. So now I'll go ahead and apply the cross-section modifier, and this creates spline segments that are aligned with the first vertex, and you can see that those are all 4-sided regions. Now let's take a look at the implications of having these out of order. So if I select this spline, just one of them, I'll select this one here and I will just rotate it out of position. So notice that the first vertex is no longer aligned there. Now when we apply the cross-section modifier, you can see that all of the cross-sections are twisted because it goes in vertex order. So it's really important to understand where your first vertices are and make sure that they're aligned. So I'll undo that and put it back so that we can see that our vertices are aligned. So now over here with this one, with the 4-sided region, I'll just go ahead and delete that and zoom in there. Let's reposition this to the middle. Now, this is one of the reasons why I like this technique, is that it gives me the ability to get organic shaped objects very quickly. So I'll go ahead and add the cross-section modifier back in, and we'll go ahead and add the surface modifier. So I've got the basics of my hat so far. Now you notice that across the top I have a hole, so we need to cap that using the technique that I showed in the previous video, where we're actually going to construct the top part of the spline cage. So I'm going to go into spline subobject mode, and let's see, going to scale that down a little bit, scale this down a little bit. This is really just some sculpting here, since this is going to be a cowboy hat. I want to take care of some of the other sculpting first before I cap the top there. So we'll scale that down, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and try our cross section there. Okay, looks good. Get out of cross section mode and apply a surface modifier, and we can see what it looks like. Alright, it's coming together. Let's go ahead and do some more editing here. Down in the edit spline mode, I can use my show end result and still edit my splines to actually see what's going on there. So go ahead and grab my spline, go into vertex mode, and I can start moving some of these vertices around to give me the organic shape. And this is one of the reasons why I like this method of modeling, because just by moving a couple of spline verts, I can get really nice organic results. So just by moving these around, and notice the topology generates itself as it goes. Nice curved shapes there. Since we're working with curves, the topology is curved as well. There we go. Now it's nice and smooth there. Delete that modifier. I'm going to collapse this all just to make sure that it stays one spline. Then it'll be a little easier to work with. Go back to vertex mode. Add the surface modifier. Okay. There we go. Now I can go into vertex mode and grab them, move them around, and continue my sculpting just by moving a couple of vertices. Grab these. Okay, so now we actually need to grab that up there. We're going to start modeling the top of the hat here. And so to do this, I'm going to go ahead and delete this modifier for right now. And I'm going to go into create mode, spline subobject mode. I don't really need to be in create mode, but I'm going to use create line. And I want to make sure that I have automatic welding turned on here because I want to have those endpoints be created. And I'm going to turn on my vertex snaps. And I'm going to draw a straight line right across the middle there. And it's going to weld those two endpoints. You see that it has adjusted the curves of that, the interpolation of the curves. But you notice I count my regions. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's that. I'm going to subdivide that line a little bit because I want to add some more topology in there. And use my vertex snaps, go in there. And by subdividing that middle segment 3 times and then creating these additional splines, I'm creating 3 and 4-sided regions there at the top of the hat. You see there's 4 there, there's 3 on the ends. So those are all legal regions. I want to make sure that I have 2 vertices there. And I want to make sure that those are welded. So 2 vertices there. All right, 3 vertices. Weld. Okay, now 2 vertices. All right, so just doing a little bit of cleanup there just to make sure that those endpoints have welded properly. And now I can add my surface modifier back in. And we're getting the topology of our hat. These areas are 3-sided regions. Now, if we take a look at this from a turbosmooth perspective, you see we put on turbosmooth and we can actually see the topology a little bit. I'm going to turn off my vertex tick so we get a better look. You can see that 3-sided regions generate different topology than 4-sided regions. When you're using this method, you're going to want to keep that in mind. 3-sided region will generate triangles. You may have to, once you're done with the modeling the spline cage portion and you're on to the actual topology, you may need to go in and adjust that, remodel that a little bit. So keep that in mind. You can indeed add some more right here. So for example, if I wanted to make sure that they were quads, I could add another row of splines there. So I'm just going to manually add these cross sections in here. I'll replace that one in a second. Come back out here. Okay, so that's good. I know it looks like I don't have a spline there at the 12 and 6 position, but I do. You just you can't see it because of the way the viewport is drawing. So let me just fix this one that I missed earlier. Okay, so now when I apply the surface modifier, instead of triangles in that area, I will actually have quads. So we'll be able to see the topology when we add the turbosmooth modifier back on. Oop, let's grab that one again. And I'm going to turn off vertex ticks. All right, so now we've transitioned, or we've made the entire surface be quads, using explicitly 4-sided regions for that. And that's a good way to look at surface modeling with splines and the surface modifier.